What's up, party people? It's Dan, your basement guitar superstar. This is another episode of Creator Hangout. And today I have the honor and privilege of hanging out with Eric from Eric See the Art of Noise. I really love his channel. He is a luthier slash guitar builder that does some really great work. I will post links to his channel in the description for y'all to watch, but he just did a really freaking amazing Kramer guitar for a guy that I was in tears watching that video, Eric, when he opened that up. That was so cool. But before
thanks.
we talk about the luthier work, Eric, thank you for joining me again.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
My first question for you actually is, talk to me about how you got started playing guitar originally, because I'm assuming that led into you wanting to work on guitars, right?
Pretty much. When I was 18 years old, one of the guys who lived in my area down the block opened up a music store called Murphy's Music. And it was some character that he came up with as being the Murphy guy, because his name was Rick. And I came off the bus after school one day, and it dropped us off right in front of the guy's store. And I walked in and kind of started just hanging around over there after school, until basically they started having me kind of work there a little bit, running errands and just cleaning guitars, vacuuming floors, stuff like that. And then I started to there was a guy named Ed, which is deceased now. He was the tech over there, and he started showing me a few things on just basic stuff of doing setups and a couple of things of fretwork. And I started learning from him basically, and I was taking lessons as a payment.
Nice.
So instead of getting a paycheck or whatever, I was getting guitar lessons. And the bad thing about it is that was my graduating year, and I was spending a lot of time at the music store instead of getting to the books and stuff. And the bad thing about it is I had to make a choice: either learn how to play guitar and make money doing it, or graduate high school. So I ended up backing off from the music store a little bit, and actually quite a bit, and just getting busy with high school so I can graduate on time. I did purchase which I've been trying to find the exact same guitar that I had back then, which was a kind of like a Super Strat Memphis guitar.
Okay.
And my amp was a T-Power tube amp. Back then, there was a lot of Laney, Meza, T-Power. What else did they have over there? I think that was it for like amps, but T-Power came into the store and it was like something new, and they grabbed it. They actually weren't too bad, but they were inexpensive amps. They were pretty cheap, so it wasn't like you're buying something really expensive. It was, the guitar I think was maybe 100 and some odd dollars, under 200, and the amp was probably the same way. At the time I wasn't working, so my father was like, well, if you're going to take this seriously, then go for it. So I kind of did back then, but yeah, I really didn't learn too much as far as the guitar playing goes. I didn't take it as serious as I should have. Then life in general, after high school, I went straight to work and ended up getting married, first marriage, and ended up basically dropping the guitar completely. And it wasn't until probably 10 years ago, where I was just driving home, and somebody threw away a PV Rockmaster, I believe they called it, where it's got a built-in amplifier, preamp inside it for headphones, built-in tuner, and pretty inexpensive guitar. Somebody threw it away. It's like, okay, I'm going to grab this thing. So I grabbed it, and it was missing some parts, needed some strings. There were some bridge pieces that were missing. Went to the music store, is still open, but it's across the street now from where it used to be, and now it's called Good Time Music. Ed, like who I said passed away, I guess went in with another guy to keep the music store going. And the guy now who's running it, I think his name is Ron. Uh, Rick has been passed away for quite a few years now. So is Ed. So he's got his own tech and everything else now. But I went over there for parts, and I picked up some bridge parts, some strings, a few other things for the guitar, and put it back together. And I didn't quite remember a lot of the setup because I knew that there's you got to do something else. I couldn't remember it. So online I went, and that's how I found a lot of other YouTubers that were doing basically kind of like the same thing I'm doing now. And I refreshed and relearned a lot of information that I'd forgotten from years ago. And then I started doing tabs. After I got the guitar set up and everything, I started looking up tabs. And there was a, I don't know what it was that something was being promoted through one of these websites that puts up tabs, not the ones that, I think this was a paid website for tabs. And they also had a thing going on where some of the tabs had backing tracks that you could remove different instruments.
Oh, I know
So
what you're talking about. Is it the one where you can like play the actual song too, and it'll play in the background, and you can speed it up, slow it down based on the same one?
No, I think that's something because I have that. I think that one, and I'm part of that. I can't remember what that was called. No, this I think was a different one because this one had a box on the side of it and a bunch of slide controls. You could remove drums, you could remove the guitar, you could remove vocals, you could remove bass guitar out of the backing track. And if you were a vocalist or a guitar player, bass guitar, drummer, you could remove the original and still play along with the actual band itself. But I think they are not the originals. I think they are like somebody copied and made up their own. It's still the same vocals, still the same type of music as the original was, but it's by somebody else.
Okay, let me know who that is when you figure it out, because I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I found this. It was about 8-9 years ago, and they had a thing going on where you could win a guitar, and it was something to do with Epiphone and whatever promotion. And the whole thing about it was based off of your skill of playing. So from 0 to 10, 0 being that you're a beginner, basically don't know anything, and 10 being you're a professional guitar player, determined on what type of Epiphone guitar you were going to get if you won. So I put in my information, and I put myself as like a 1 or a 2. I was familiar with the guitar, but still, beginner. Right. And I ended up winning.
Wow.
So they sent me the Epiphone Performance Pack, which is just was a Les Paul 2 or something like that with a Epiphone amplifier, gig bag, patch cord, everything you need to get started, tuner. Right. And I started messing around with that. And then I found, the tuners were kind of crappy on it, and started replacing stuff and going on eBay and learning about the parts, how for different size of tuners, how the tuners actually work as far as between the good ones and the bad ones, and then finding out about counterfeit parts as well that was being sold. So I did a little work on that thing, and again, still beginner as far as guitar player goes. I didn't take it seriously as far as the guitar playing. I enjoyed more working on them. And then I started doing a thing where I was hunting on eBay, where basically just finding any guitar that needed a little bit of work and buying them. And then I would end up putting them together, fixing them, either if it was a finish problem or needed not, the only thing I didn't do at the time was I wasn't doing anything as far as frets go. So I wouldn't even try to attempt to do a fret job. Now I'm comfortable with it and I'm able to do it. But back then it was like one of those things where you screw up, there's going to be a lot of problems. And if you don't have enough fret wire for the screw ups, you're going to be in trouble.
Right.
So that part I left alone. But as far as the wiring goes, as far as replacing hardware, pickups, everything electronics, I got more familiar with it. And as time went on, I started doing a thing where I ended up it looked like a music store in my basement. And I ended up throwing everything up on eBay and, selling them for a little bit more than what I paid for them, considering the needs that they needed as far as work being done on them. And so I got my money back and a little bit more, and I just threw it right back in. And then I started doing a YouTube channel. And from there, it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of guys that are playing guitar. There's a lot of guys that are repairing and showing their work and stuff. I guess I'm going to be another one of those guys. So that's what I ended up doing. As time went by, I've gotten a lot better as far as, the work that I've been doing on guitars. And instead of being a hobby, I turned it into a business. And I started making pretty decent money doing it. The YouTube thing, I started getting freebies from a lot of the sellers that were on eBay were sending me freebie stuff. And I would sit there and I'd send them an email and say, I'm didn't call myself a luthier, but I'd say I worked on guitars and I do this, this, and this. I'm looking for parts for this. I'm looking for parts for this, preferably original if it can be. And from there, I don't know if they saw my channel, but I would get a lot of tuners or I got a couple of Kickatars, mostly small stuff, nothing really, really big. Sure. But from there, the agreement was that I couldn't sell anything that I've got. And more than one of these eBay sellers that was on the same page as far as that goes. So what I ended up doing is having giveaways on my channel. And I have small contests or whatever, and end up just, whoever won, they won. Some of the Kickatars, I would end up just giving them away after I built them. Then I started doing guitar giveaways. And I kind of have a thing for every Christmas, Christmas, my birthday, I think it is, that I'll have a giveaway going on.
Okay.
At least twice a year, at least I'll have a giveaway going on. And this last one I had was a Ibanez giveaway for my birthday. And the only thing is I kind of asked for US and sometimes Canada, but mostly US. And the guy who won it had it sent to his friend in the US, and his friend shipped it out to where he's at. So I was like, okay, well, that works. I mean, it didn't cost me as far as what it's going to cost him for shipping, but if he wanted it that bad, then okay. So that worked out pretty good. What else? I'm from a background where we do everything ourselves. We don't, if your hot water tank breaks or something and you need someone to come in to replace it, we'll do it ourselves rather than hire somebody. My father, as far as the artistic part of things, my father used to customize vans, the old 70s style vans. And he's also a biker. We also used to do custom motorcycles.
Nice.
And nothing was ever a copy of something, and nothing was ever a duplicate. Everything was always, a one of a kind. And as far as finishing goes, paint, buffing, and stuff like that, I kind of learned a lot from them. Back then, when I was just starting off with the guitar stuff, I was the masker. I would mask off the car, mask off, whatever parts we didn't want paint to get on, underneath the hood or something, hole underneath the hood would get all messed up so no paint got on the motor, door jams and stuff like that. And then I ended up getting into basically the finishing part of it, where buffing, the wet sanding and the buffing part of it. Painting, I'm terrible at painting. I tried doing it using the spray gun, and it comes out like sandpaper for me. It's either I'm going too fast or I'm going too slow. But I can use a red can really good. A spray can. Airbrushing is not too bad. I've done a couple of murals on. One was on the trunk of oh man, I can't remember what the Camaro, what year Camaro was, but it was the Dio theme. Ronnie James Dio of Last in Line.
Nice.
Or no, Holy Diver, I think was the album. It had the character, and then I used to do Eddie a lot from Iron Maiden. Used to draw him a lot. With the guitar thing, I put a lot of what I've learned in the past into what I'm doing now, as far as the clear coats and learning a little bit more about dyes and stuff. We used to do stain our own furniture and stuff. If you buy the raw furniture, stain it to whatever you want it to match whatever your furnishings are, instead of having to buy it that way, and then sealing that up and everything else as well. So we used to do that ourselves too.
Sure.
But now instead of using oil-based stuff, now I'm using water-based stuff, to where I'm using powder dyes instead of something that's already pre-mixed. And with that, I can get more of a custom color, because purple is not one of the colors that's in the dye mix. You have to mix that yourself.
Right.
Which worked out pretty good for the wannabe PRS purple flame top that I've been working on still. Lately, I kind of, after I got done doing the pink Kramer, I kind of took a little bit of a break and just doing things around here and helping out more around the house and doing stuff with the family, instead of sitting down here in the workshop in the basement and working on stuff. Well, all in all, I built myself up pretty good. I got shot down pretty hard when I was getting the free stuff. All of a sudden it just stopped because I got myself involved with some stuff on YouTube, and it ended up that stopped, which a lot of it was my fault, and so be it. But as far as like the building and stuff goes, that stuff I continue to do because I like doing it. I actually really like working on guitars. I bought everything that I need to start actually building my own bodies. All the templates I've got, the body templates I don't have, but I have everything for bridges, necks, pockets, control cavity, pickups for Strat and humbucker, single coil and humbuckers. I've got a lot of tools for building the neck now. The only thing I'm kind of waiting for is a what is that? What was that machine called?
A pin router.
Planer? Huh?
What's that? Planer, not a router.
Oh no, I got routers. I got a bunch of routers. Like I said, we used to do a lot of that stuff ourselves.
Oh, sure.
As far as tools go, as for normal everyday tools, I think we're pretty stocked. I mean, everything that's in the basement down here, I got a full wall, I got a full toolbox, I got 2 cabinets over here full of tools. The cabinet over here is more of Dremel stuff and bits for routing bits. I'd love to get a CNC machine. I would love to get one of those. But was it a planer and a joiner? I think is the 2 tools that I'm wanting to get. This way I can even out the tops of the guitars, the bottoms of guitars, and then the sides that get put together, as far as gluing, if I'm going to do like a solid body, but there's going to be like 3 planks or 2 planks of wood glued together. So I've got everything I need, but I just haven't gone that far yet. And the Kickatars, I've been having a lot of luck lately with the buyers or the sellers that I've been buying the guitars from. I stay away from the real cheap kits because of the, I bought, what was it, a Cozart kit a long time ago. And I had nothing but issues with that. If everything from the neck pocket not being positioned right, I had to shim the actual neck that's on it.
So what
I
do you mean
have,
by really cheap, Eric? Are you talking the stuff that's like 150, $200 as opposed to,
I will stay away from anything that is like $80. You
yeah,
know,
I
if,
don't
if
blame
it's
you.
$100 and up, if it's $100 and up, like say $160, then I'll get it. I won't use any of the hardware that comes with it or the electronics, and I haven't done that in any of the kits that I built. My first, I can't say my first kit. Which one was that? I don't think it was my first kit, but I think it was like my third or second kit, which I still have, and that was a Les Paul. I ended up doing a red dye on it. Well, first doing the black dye over the veneer that was on it, flame maple, and sanded that back, and then I did a red dye on top of that. And excuse me, I ended up starting to learn about the nitrocellulose clear coat, which I can't stand. That one, I still have it. It wasn't really a custom, but I ended up picking up these inlay decals and embedding them underneath the clear coat. And it gave like a perloid type of a vine going around the body edge, which came out pretty nice. But the lacquer that I put on there was from Stumac, and it checked.
Oh God.
Yeah, which to me, when I look at it and stuff like that, it's like, wow, this thing looks like it's got some age to it. But that's not the original plan. You know, the original plan was to have, you know, something that it wasn't going to start cracking like that.
So,
Nothing's chipping off, but
so how many kit guitars do you do per year usually?
uh
As opposed to like other work? I mean, I'm assuming, repair work, pickup replacement, all that's the majority, right?
yes and no. I just started doing other people's guitars.
Oh,
So
okay.
that just started. Kind of like one of those things where you have to build yourself up to other people. So when they see that what you're doing, it's like, oh, well, you know, maybe I'll get a hold of him and you know, see what he says.
Sure.
And you know, I've taken on other people's guitars. This is probably like wow, maybe the sixth guitar that I've done for somebody is the maybe I think it's the sixth guitar that I've done for somebody else. It was that Kramer, and I got a couple more that a couple of my subscribers want me to do some work, and I got another guy who wants me to do a kit. Um, we were kind of going back and forth on what kit body and everything else that he was looking for. And I haven't heard from him in a while though. But as far as kits go, oh, I can't. This year I've been pretty busy with the kits. Last year I don't think I was that busy. I do have one headless kit that's sitting in the storage area down here in the basement that I started working on, and I lost interest.
And you
I don't
said
know
you
if,
sell the stuff on eBay, right?
what's that?
You said you sell the kit guitars on eBay,
Those I haven't really sold. I've done more of giveaways with those.
giveaways with all of them. Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple of one in particular that I did I put it on eBay and sold it, which that one got me in the front door over at the music store for parts.
That was the one
Um,
you were telling me about that you get parts from pretty cheap.
yeah, yeah. We called it the Dead Man, and it basically was a Telecaster body with a spalted maple top. Um, and what I ended up using on that was pretty much the second guitar that I started using the epoxy resin on for a finish. And what I did with that one is I wood burned the Dead Man playing cards on the top of it. I picked up off of eBay a bunch of spent 45 shells, bullets. I cut off the tube part of the shell, just giving me the back end of it, and I drilled holes throughout the body, just around the edge of it, and embedded those ends into the body of the guitar. The neck, I drilled out a few of them of these dot inlays, and I embedded the butt ends of the shells into the neck as well.
That's awesome. Can you send me pictures of that to post
Sure,
video?
sure. The back of it, I did a full mural on the back, wood burning, which is a skull with a cowboy hat on, 2 revolvers, and then a few of the playing cards. And that one, I wanted to have like a rustic look to it. So I kind of stained it to where it reminded me a little bit of kind of like old barn wood, having a little bit of a pink to it or a tan to it. So that one worked out pretty good. That's the only one that I really sold that was something that I built. Everything else, I've got another one that we called, a friend of mine actually named this one, the Cyborg.
Excuse me.
No problem. It was a, oh gosh, I can't remember what that guitar body was called now. Oh, had James Hetfield plays one.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's not the Explorer, is it?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
That's it. It's an Explorer body. It was from a kit. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. A buddy of mine, which is also on YouTube, he's like, well, why don't you do this? And then he's the one that came up with the name of it too. So what I ended up doing with that guitar is I routed out the upper and then the lower areas where there was a lot of meat on that body. And I found like I had an old computer motherboard laying around over here. So I decided to chop it up. That was the first guitar that I coated the whole thing in epoxy resin. And it's like, I didn't know what I was getting into when I started doing that, as far as working with the epoxy resins and how I'm using it now. And how I'm using it now is a little bit more efficient as far as the aftermath of what you have to do to finish it off and actually have a nice shiny product, compared to not masking it off and putting a drip. You do a top pour and it drips down the sides. When that cures, you got drips all over the bottom, which were a pain to get rid of, because you got to sand all that out. What I did with this Cyborg is I ended up taking the computer boards, putting them inside of the body, and then backlighting them with blue LEDs.
That's cool.
And what I ended up doing with that too is the shielding tape that you would use to shield the cavities. I took that tape and kind of cut it roughly by hand and folded it around the edges to make it look like metal was being broken outwards. And I used a black magic marker, a Sharpie marker, to do this, and just shaded the areas that would be shaded if metal was being bent outwards.
Oh, sure.
Stained it blue, and then I took the wood burner first and made panels all over the body, so it looked like there were metal panels.
Oh,
Then
sure.
I stained it blue and epoxied everything, so the whole thing is encased in epoxy. And that one I gave to the guy who named it, and actually basically told me what to do and how to do it as far as the build goes on that. So I gave it to him.
Hey, did I see right on that Kramer? Sorry to interrupt you. That you put like clear plastic plates on stuff.
Yeah.
On the back. That's really cool. I've actually never seen somebody do the clear plastic before, other than like a full acrylic guitar.
Well, I did that on this one too. I got a.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love that. I think that looks really cool. Like, and it's weird because normally I don't like when I can see. I'm just picky and don't like when I can see like the springs from the bridge in the back. But I think with the clear stuff on there, it actually looks really cool.
I like it if it's my thing, and a lot of people even notice that when I'm doing stuff, is the detail that I've been putting into the work. I will never do a relic body. I can't stand a relic guitar unless it's been naturally worn out. There's a history behind it. If somebody wants me to preserve that, then I'll go with like a matte finish or something on it to preserve it, to keep it the way the guy wants. But if it's something that somebody wants me to relic, I'll never do it. And I don't think something like that would go with a relic job compared to something new.
Right.
The way guitars are being built nowadays and stuff, you can have a guitar sent out to your luthier at a guitar shop or something, and have them rewire your pickups and stuff, but they're not going to look like this. There's maybe a bunch of wires that are wire tied inside there. There might be, I've been using shrink tubing, doing everything as soldered, shrink tubing everything to make it look clean.
Right.
I've got the braided, different colors of the braided, cloth braided wiring that Gibson would have used like years ago in their guitars, and I use that in basically everything. I just started doing the clear panels with the plexiglass, and it works out pretty good. But the only bad thing about it is it's not as good or flexible as the panels that come with them. So if you end up taking a panel off and you put it back on, you tighten up the screw around the plexiglass a little bit too tight, you might get a crack.
Oh no.
Yeah. So the guy who's got the Kramer, I let him know about that too. He's like, if you ever have to take a panel off or anything, just snug up the screws. Don't torque them. The plastic ones that come with guitars, those you can kind of tighten them pretty tight and they won't crack. The only thing I noticed that does crack is if you have a flush mount back plate for a tremolo.
Right.
Sometimes those screw areas on the corners will crack. But
and I don't
again,
blame you, Eric. Sorry to interrupt. Let's go back to
sure.
the relicking thing. Initially, I think you and I agree on that, because I feel like now, at least, like I appreciate relicking if it's somebody's had a guitar for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. And they've legit played it live, but relicking now just seems like it's an excuse for guitar companies to charge double or triple the money that they normally would.
I've seen some of Fender's guitars, and they were selling them, because they're a line of relic guitars, and some of them were doing a thing too where there would be a different colored paint underneath the top coat that they put on there. There'd be a different color. So as it was relic or sanded back or whatever, you start seeing different layers, different colored of the finish. So it looked like somebody refinished it, and then that was worn out again. And it's like some of these guys are putting clear coats on top of their relics and stuff. It's like, well, wait a minute here. You want to seal that in. Yeah, you don't want to have bare wood. You should use some type of a flat or a satin finish. Otherwise, you got this area that looks like bare wood, and it's got a clear coat on top of it.
Right.
It's like that doesn't make that look right as far as being a relic goes. And a lot of people aren't really doing the relicking the right way. The worn out areas that you would normally have wouldn't be around the whole body. There would be like an arm area, a pick area, where you rested on your leg, the back, as far as getting a rash from a belt buckle, an area where if you played a lot at the bottom of the neck, that bottom area would have some wear to it. But when you watch some of these guys and they're taking razor blades and knives and stuff and you're scraping it away, the worst one that is sandpaper. A lot of these guys will sand back. It's like, yeah, it just looks like someone sanded the finish off.
Right.
It doesn't look like a relic. It looks like somebody, put a grinder on it. Because you can see the scratch marks. You can see the different directions that the type of sandpaper that they used, being like coarse to get the job done. You can see those marks in the finish and in the wood. It's like, yeah, that's not a relic. You just hit it with some sandpaper and that was it.
Right.
But there are some guys out there who actually really, really know what they're doing as far as relicking, and they get it right. They take, a handful of nuts and screws and throw it at the wood. give it the dents, the dings, the chips, and everything else. Not bang it with a hammer or take a screwdriver and just, start hitting it with a screwdriver, but they actually take pieces of something. So it looks more random than just taking a screwdriver and tapping it in an area. But as far as relicking goes, yeah, I've seen good, I've seen bad, but I'm against both.
Right.
A history of a guitar should, if a guitar has been used and used a lot, if somebody has their favorite Gibson, their favorite Fender, whatever, they take it wherever they're gigging at, play it every night. It's going to get scratched up. It's going to get dinged. It's going to have some type, but each one of those dings and scratches, even though they're oops and an uh-oh, they have a little bit of a story to tell.
Right.
They're naturally done. You can't, it's, you buy a brand new car and rock chips it, when you're driving down the expressway. You can't help those things. And it just gives more, to me, value to be naturally done than faked.
Right. Well, and like I said, I mean, it seems like it, and Fender's especially guilty of this. Now, and I love Fender guitars. I own like 5 of them, so I'm not poo-pooing them. But it seems like, they could take a made in Mexico Strat, and as soon as they relic it, it goes from $800 to $3,200, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like, really.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
and then I got into incorporating stained glass into a body of a guitar. And that was actually, no, that I did sell. I sold 2 guitars. That was I think that was the first guitar that I sold, was the Kickatar. There was a Telecaster body, and it was a kit. It had the I think what they call it, a snakehead headstock on a Telecaster. I believe that was a single. I think I had only a single coil on it. But what I did, I called it the Angel guitar. And my wife's mother, she does stained glass. She does like the big windows and stuff.
nice.
And when I go out there on vacations and stuff, I'll work on a project or something over there. So I was like, well, I'm going to bring the body of the guitar with me. I'm going to bring a sketch of the Angel that I wood burned into the body, and it was the body and the wings. How hard can it be to make wings and embed them into the body of a guitar? So I ended up going through 2 sets of wings. One set that I made was with a darker stained glass, and the lighting, I blacklit them, the wings, and it just didn't work out. The light wouldn't go through it. But it looked more of a feathered type of a stained glass, the way I made the wings. Each feather was a piece of glass. Each feather was a piece of glass. I had to put this together like a jigsaw puzzle after I cut them out.
That's awesome.
It was a pain in the ass, to be honest with you, but it came out really nice. Then when I got back, I had a white set, and then I had a darker set. The darker set I didn't use. Light didn't transfer through them the way I wanted it to, so I used a white set. The white set still had a little bit of a whiter swirl in it, and it wasn't transparent like regular glass, but it gave me enough to where the light transferred through it almost evenly throughout the wings. And what I ended up doing is I took the Dremel and the router, and I made an edge. I knocked down, countersunk a little bit around it at the edge for the wings to fit flush into the body.
Nice.
Because stained glass is kind of thick.
Right.
And then underneath that, I routed out, leaving that edge for the wings to sit on. I routed out more of the cavity, like a control cavity. 9-volt battery, a couple of resistors. I ended up using the shielding tape on the inside of that cavity, more of for light to reflect off of. One of the wings I did in steps going upwards towards the end of the wing. So when the light hit it, it kind of lit up going upwards all the way to the point of the wing. That gave it where it didn't look so dark on one side. It still was a little dark, but not as dark as it would have been if I just left it all one open, one,
That's
one
pretty cool.
size.
I'm assuming these are in videos on your channel, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Okay.
There's a series of them of what I did, the step by step, even making the stained glass.
Okay.
I recorded that as well.
For those of you watching this, I'll post a link to a couple of those. I'll dig deep and find some of them.
Yeah, it's the Angel, got the Angel guitar, the Dead Man, and then the Cyborg, which are all titled with the names of the guitar in them.
Oh, sure.
What else have I done? I know I've done a lot more than just
Hey,
that.
show me that purple guitar you've been working on, the PRS style one, because I absolutely love the color.
Oh, it's a mess right now. It's a mess right now.
Oh,
I got rubbing compound dots all over the front of it because I was polishing up the headstock. So I got the headstock pretty much where I want it.
Dude, I love those inlays. Those are beautiful.
What the
No, the headstock inlay. Obviously, you have the Paul Reed Smith one.
Oh, my name?
But
yeah, that's my logo.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's embedded underneath the epoxy.
Nice.
And I just kind of finished up with the back of it, and with the kind of doing the pour on there. It's got my fingerprints all over it. I ended up learning, like I said, I'm still learning with this epoxy, how it works and what I can do with it as far as getting a wraparound finish over the top and the bottom of the guitar, and including the sides while having a lot of work to correct problems. And the last video that I made of this guitar, the sides were kind of like wavy. And I mean, you could feel it really bad. I mean, it was terrible. So I ended up sanding it back down, not to wood, but just to level everything off. And I had a couple spots where I sanded through the epoxy. So I had to touch those up with the black and then re-epoxy the back. So what I ended up doing is I'm using the binding as my tape line. So I make like an 1.5 inch or 2 inch drip skirt going around it. So when I'm doing the let's say the whole back of it, instead of it dripping down and having a bunch of drips all over the bottom, it goes down the skirt.
Nice.
And drips onto wax paper. Well, epoxy won't stick to wax paper. And what I figured out on doing this, which trial and error, what I figured out is you pour the top first. You pour your flat surface first, squeegee it out to the thickness that you want it, which I use adhesive trowels, which have 4 different sides on it. You got one that's more of a point, a medium, a small, and then you have one that's just like a scraper.
Okay.
And I learned that if you pour the top surface, the flat surface first, squeegee it all around, take your trowel and go around the edges with it to smooth that out, then pour the edges, and it makes a nice flat, which now like this one here, it's not all wavy and stuff like it is before. And then I also coat the inside of the cavity pockets with it as well. So there's really no bare wood.
Oh, nice.
Other than where the holes are drilled into it. But other than that, and on this one here, this has got a Indian rosewood.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can see it, but I cleared it.
Yeah, it's shiny. We can't see any of the grains in it, but
Oh, it's my camera sucks. This is probably
okay, now I can see them. Yeah.
Okay. So what I did with this is I ended up scuffing up the finish, or scuffing up the surface with it, and then going over it with the clear. And I'm just applying clear little at a time as it's drying to build it up. And then what I'm going to end up doing is do a little bit of sanding on that and then buff it out.
Okay.
And it'll also help clean whatever clear I get on, which I'm going to have to go over to the frets on this to clean up, excuse me, the clear that's on the frets, which is not a big deal, which I did the orange striped guitar the same way. But being a Indian rosewood, I've noticed that there's a difference between regular rosewood that you would get on most guitars compared to the Indian. The Indian rosewood, when you clear it, the clear actually dries. If you have a regular rosewood, it stays sticky. It doesn't want to, it takes a lot longer to dry. So I don't know if it's because of the natural oils, because I've had Kickatars that had rosewood fretboards, and I tried to put like a clear on the edges of it, and it stays sticky. I wouldn't cure. But this one here, it's like when I did the back of the neck, I hit the sides of the fretboard with it. And I was like, oh, this is nice. It's not sticky at all. I'm going to hit this top with it because the top has got some nice figuring in it. It also has a little bit of purple in it. There's some purple here, and there's a couple of spots of purple in it down over here that it's in the wood.
Yeah, and I love how the burst on the body on that one turned out.
This originally started off as being a purple, and in the video, it was basically, it looked purple until I put the clear on it, the epoxy. Some people say it looked like a root beer color.
Oh yeah.
But I guess it's like depending on the type of light that you put it under. Like I have the fluorescence on it right now, so it's giving it probably a little bit more of a purple. But on the counter, it's got more of a brown to it.
Really? Because every picture you've sent me of it, it looks purple to me.
Okay. But some people said in the videos that it looks like it's like a root beer color.
Interesting. Now, what about that guitar that I looked to me like it had the dragon finish on it? Am I seeing that right? Or
yeah, this was something that I ordered. I had made for me, and I've been playing around with it a lot. You can see got it plugged in. Sure. This one here, there was an eBay seller, and they custom make guitars for you.
Okay.
So you could put in your list, like this one here comes with the way that it looks on the top of it, but you can customize as far as your electronics go. You can customize your headstock, put your own logo in it. Like on this one here, I had just Eric C put into the headstock.
Oh, wow.
To match, and the inlay matches all the inlay that's on there. This thing here, when I got it, yeah, this thing needed a lot of work. Which I keep telling myself to stop buying the Chinese guitars.
Right.
Because on this one here, I started doing the ends weren't too bad on the frets, but they still had to be addressed a little bit. What did I do? Oh, I ended up polishing the frets on this with the Dremel. And I guess the little buffing wheel caught one of the frets and pulled it right out.
Oh, shoot.
So I was like, okay, what's going on here? So I ended up taking my fret puller, and they came out with no problems. I made a video of doing it. They came out with absolutely no effort at all. It's like, okay, they used no glue. I thought maybe the fret slots were cut too big. And I have the all the StuMac tools for doing frets and stuff, and the slot cleaner fit in there just perfectly. So did the saw that I got for binded necks.
Wow.
It's like, okay, so the slots aren't overcut or oversized.
Well, that's too bad that it required all that work, because like I mean, the finish on that is just gorgeous.
Well, the top
fretboard inlay and stuff.
The fretboard inlay, I thought I was going to have a big issue with plucking the frets out to where some of the inlays, one piece of the inlay came out. And that was where there's like, where the dragon kind of coils itself.
Oh, sure.
And when I ended up taking and cleaning out the slots, I use compress. I don't have an air compressor down here, but I got a compressed air cans that I use. And I was blowing all the dust off of it, and one of the pieces went flying. It's like, okay, where did it go?
Oh no.
So yeah, so I found it, but I had to hunt down because there's crap all this workshop we built when I was like 13 years old in the basement.
Oh, okay.
I used to do a lot of electronic stuff, fixing receivers, cassette players, CD players, and stuff. And the old man and I, it's like, well, you're doing that stuff in the basement, but you got to go up and downstairs for tools. because we got tools in the garage. How about if we build something down here? So, okay, fine. So we built a workshop and kind of like a little area that turned into storage for I don't know how many years until I turned it into my kids' play area. Now it's supposed to be my area for playing guitar because I got everything over there, but the kid took it back for her play area again. But there's a lot of nooks and crannies and shelves that are underneath the counters over here that chip could have went under. Luckily, it was just over by the door. And it's like, yeah, I'm ready to pull out the shop vac and just start vacuuming the floor and all the corners and stuff. And hopefully it picks it up.
Oh, sure.
But I got it, glued it back in place, and did a radius, sanded the radius back because it was a little bit on the high side. And yeah, so it worked out perfect. The finish on that guitar is, it's okay. They did a nice job with the inlays. The veneer that they have on it, the quilted maple veneer, it chipped out around the edges where the binding is.
Oh, shoot.
So that there's nothing I could do about that unless I strip it completely down to the wood and see if I could put a dye or some type of filler to match the top and that to correct that. Well, what I did do with this is when I first got it, it looked good, wasn't too bad. A few spots there was some runs. It's like, okay, I'm going to have to fix this because I don't like it. So in thinking about it, it's like, well, I'm going to scuff sand the whole top of this thing, and I'm going to pour epoxy on top of it. So I made my drip area around the edges, and that's when that dragon, the inlays, really popped out, is after putting that epoxy resin on top of it. It just gave it more depth. There was a lot more coloring that came out of the inlays that is like, yeah, this is nice. So I did the headstock too.
Nice.
And the my logo or not my logo, but my name and the diamond that's on top of the headstock kind of popped out a lot more. And it's like, okay, I could put the tuners on this. They're not going to mess up the epoxy at all. I thought, being under pressure, because you do have to tighten them up, but not torque them down, that's going to cause a problem where they're going to sink. And as long as you let the epoxy cure, there's no problems. And the one guitar that I didn't do epoxy on it, which I really, really wish I did, was this one here, which weighs a ton.
Wow, I love the wood grain on that.
This is a Kickatar, and this is the zebra stripe wood.
Yeah,
and it's throughout everything. I mean, it's on the back. There's no veneer on this. And this guitar is heavy as hell. This came from a eBay seller that was, and this was a kick guitar as well. I also have videos of this up on my channel, putting it together and going through the process of it. The only thing I wanted this thing to do is I wanted it to glow underneath a black light. So this orange is a fluorescent orange that I put on here, and it didn't glow. The fluorescent orange worked pretty good. I put some glow powder in it before I dyed it, and it still doesn't glow.
oh
The
shoot.
fret markers do. The fret markers, they glow, but not the, I pulled out the fret markers. They used to be white. I pulled them out, and I mixed epoxy resin with the fluorescent orange and some powdered glow in the dark. The headstock, I ended up taking the headstock on this, and if you can see, like, there's a rose.
Yeah.
I used a Dremel and I carved that out on the
Oh,
headstock. That's also filled with epoxy resin, and that also glows in the dark.
oh,
Not
nice.
so much the green part, but the flower part does. And this is like the first one that I started to do this is the first one I started doing the plexiglass covers. So this one I went on both the three-way switch and the pots. Now, what I went with this under is I went with Seymour Duncan These are the, oh man, they're the high distortion ones, the Seymour Duncan's Mayhems. And I went with a Jimmy Page wiring. So this has got push and pull on all of the knobs.
Wow.
So this one does coil splitting and out of phase.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I'm going to do the same thing with the bridge pickup that is on the purple one. That one will also be split and can be out of phase as well.
What are your plans with that purple guitar? Are you doing that one as a giveaway?
I don't know. It may be in the future. I hold on to them for a little bit and mess around with them a little bit. And then I get tired of it and I'll give it away. Sure. So it may be a future giveaway. I don't know. I do have to thin out. I've got 4 Gibsons, 3 Epiphones, 4 Ibanezes, 2 Squier basses. I have kind of a rare Washburn that from when I found the eBay seller, and it was in very decent condition. It just needs a little TLC, has some scratches on it. But it's a Washburn that looks like a it looks like a Telly and it looks like a Strat. Let me go get it. Let me go in the other room and get it.
I'm intrigued. I want to see this.
Hold on. Oh, sorry, not a Washburn, it's a Dean. Not a Washburn, it's a Dean guitar. All right, so if you look at it this way, what does it look like?
Telecaster.
If you look at it this way, what does it look like?
It looks like it's awesome.
And it's got hot rails in it, which everything on this guitar is stock. I didn't do anything different with it. Usually I change out the bridges and put a roller bridge on mostly anything that's got a tunematic. This one I did not because of the only thing I did is I did put a bone nut on it instead of what was on here. I can't remember what the name of this thing was called. I do have videos of it when I was doing the work on it. It was pretty scratched up. I mean, this thing had some scratches in it that were pretty bad. The black didn't really look too much black anymore. The black had kind of like a scuff look to it.
Oh, sure.
So it was more on like the grayer side than a black side. So a little bit of sanding and rubbing compound and buffed it out to where it is now. And it's a little bit dusty because it's been hanging on the wall. But I don't know. I can't remember. I think, no, it's not active. This is not an active system. Does it have the push and pull? No. But yeah, it's got a humbucker hot rail, and then it has a hot rail. It's not really a single coil.
Right.
It's basically it's a humbucker, but very small, mini humbucker, very small coils, a lot smaller than what I normally would see on something that would be look like a single coil, but it actually is a humbucker.
Sure.
Like, I can't remember what the name of this thing was. A friend of mine found online, or he has the magazine of when these things were advertised. And it is a Dean guitar. God, I can't remember what, they never say what the hell they are. It comes with Grover tuners on there. I want to say that this is a veneer on it. You know, the flame maple's a veneer. They carried it to the back. They also carried a lot of it into the headstock and gave it the same theme as far as the way that the body looks on this thing. But somebody was saying that this was kind of rare. And I grabbed it. The price was right. I grabbed it and just put a little TLC inside of it, into it, and you know, it sounds awesome. I mean, love the way this thing sounds, but I don't like how thick this neck is. It's
Oh,
got a pretty
yeah.
chunky neck on it.
It looks
But
like it's got like one of those Louisville Slugger
yeah.
necks on it, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know. It's a one-piece neck, bolted on or screwed on. Um, but yeah, I mean it's nice, but it's not kind of one of those ones where it actually has some weight to it.
Sure. Now, Eric, if somebody wanted you to do some work for them or wanted you to build a kit guitar for them, how can they get a hold of you?
On my channel, when you go to the about, basically I put everything that I do and information inside there. If you want to get a hold of me by email and either talk price or if you're interested in something and want to know, excuse me, some information about a kit or something, where to go, who to look at as far as buying one, who to stay away from. Everything is all inside of the about on my channel.
Okay. I'll make sure I post a link, obviously, to your channel so people could go and read that. What are your thoughts on, because when I've looked at kit guitars before, I would never put one together. I would buy the actual kit and have somebody else do it for me.
Mhm.
But what are your thoughts on the Wilkinson kits that StewMac sells?
I haven't had a chance to buy a kit from them yet, as far as the Wilkinson's kit. I have watched videos on acoustic guitar kits from the StewMac that one guy that I subscribe to, he had to reshim the whole neck.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I mean, just the way the joints went together for the neck. It's supposed to be a glued joint, but the neck is real sloppy. So he had to put shims inside there and keep building up the shims until everything started fitting tight, then sanding back or scraping back the shims until it fit right. I have had I've had a kit, a Kozar kit that I bought that cheap kit, period. Neck is not set, neck is not right. I've had $300 kits. And it seems like the more you spend on a kit, the better quality you're getting as far as that kit goes. The electronics and the hardware is about the same. Unless like there's some places that will upgrade your hardware or upgrade your electronics, but you pay more money for that.
Right.
So you're looking at like a $500 kit, if not better.
Okay.
The Wilkinson's one, I haven't really,
because I think those are around 450 or 500. I want to say something like that.
well, you're StewMac.
Totally misremembering. Yeah, from StewMac.
Yeah.
It's all Wilkinson hardware and pickups and stuff, which I'm a big fan of. I love Vintage, the brand.
Yeah.
So
I've had as far as guitars with Wilkinson parts on there and electronics, Harley Benton was a good one. And as far as the brand name goes of Wilkinson's, I use their roller bridges, their Tuna-Mac roller bridges. I just picked up where are you? This is supposed to be a Godo bridge, and this was I was going to put on the purple one, but the mounts don't line up with the mounts that are on it. And it says Wilkinson's on the actual bridge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it doesn't say Godo on it. It says Wilkinson's. But yeah, this was going to be an upgrade from what was going to be put on that purple guitar. But like I said, the holes don't line up for the pivot, the 2-point mount. And one of them is a little bit off. So either I'll be giving this away, or because I have nothing that I can use this on, not unless I plug up holes and re-drill. And it's bad enough that I have to re-drill the holes that I filled up with epoxy.
Right.
So I got to bring that upstairs and on the mill and drill them out. That way I get a nice straight clean shot into it and not have anything off or on angles. But I hate tremolos.
Yeah.
I hate Floyd Roses and I hate tremolos.
Yes, finally, somebody besides me that hates Floyd's. Yes, I think we
Yeah.
are the only two people on the planet that hate Floyd's. Sometimes
I'll work on them, but they're just a
dang it,
balancing act.
Floyd's.
I've got a Jackson soloist that is in the case in the other room that is a beautiful guitar, but it's got a Floyd Rose special on it, and I ended up putting a stabilizer on that thing to where I can actually like do a drop D on it, and it's not going to mess with the where the tuning is set up for the rest of the strings or throw the whole Floyd Rose off. So I got that on there. I also have an ESP that's got a detune on it, so I blocked that one. And yeah, stabilizers and blocks, yeah, those are good. But as far as doing a setup with those things, yeah, they're a pain in the ass.
And see, I always, when I worked at Music Around, this is, 20 years ago almost, I got a job there right after college and I ended up doing a lot of setups and stuff. And I got stuck doing all the Floyds because nobody else wanted to do them. And I was the low man on the totem pole. So
Yep.
naturally, they made me do it. And there was a customer we had that every single freaking guitar that guy had a Floyd on it. And he brought them all in to have setups. And I was cursing him for like 3 weeks under my breath. And it was, yeah, there were a couple times when I probably curled up under the desk in a fetal position crying because
I got so tired of them. I went and picked up the tools. This one's for Ibanez edges,
yeah,
for doing the intonation, and this one's for a Floyd Rose or a Floyd Rose special to do the intonation. It's like, I feel your pain.
the other guitars I don't like doing setups on are BC Rich because they do that bull crap where they make you have like their exact wrenches or whatever. Or they still do that. I don't know if they still do, but
I don't know if they do. I know the Mockingbird that I have, I believe it's a 4mm, maybe a 5mm. It's been a while since I had to do anything with that. I picked up that BC Rich off of eBay. Again, scratches and chips and stuff, and I restored it, and didn't do anything as far as hardware goes or do anything as far as electronics go. Everything is bone stock on that thing. But I know I had to adjust the truss. It's probably a 4mm that's as far as the neck, the truss rod goes.
Because they made it sound like when I worked at Music Around, we had a couple of them come in. Granted, this was the older models, but
yeah,
you had to like buy a BC Rich specific set of Allen wrenches that had that were the female end adjust a lot of them because they had, instead of having the female end on the inside of the guitar, they had the male end sticking out for the truss rod.
Oh, so it was more of a nut instead of an insert. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I know Gibson, they use you need a nut wrench for the truss rod in those. Oh, really? I know Ibanez wants you to get one of these, for their stuff. The new guitars, prestigious. I got one, and they come with a whole toolkit like this instead of just a couple of Allen keys.
Nice. So, but, hey, if somebody is like looking to get into, working on guitars and doing finishes and stuff, and they're just starting out, what's something you wish you would have known when you first got into it that you know now that would have made your life a lot easier as far as working on guitars goes?
Not being afraid of it. Getting into it to where when you sit there and you second guess something, it's like, do you think you can do this? Can you do this? I would say that if somebody would want to get into something like this, and they are mechanically inclined, they do know measurements and stuff, know how to use a tape, a ruler, within millimeters and in thousandths as well. Go for it. Because I wish I would have done this shit a long time ago. kept up with it as far as what I got into years ago instead of well, life does its thing. So more of a hobby than a career, you know.
Right.
And that's basically what I'm doing with it now is it's more of a hobby. I've turned more into a guitar collector, and the hobby side is the repairs and the refinishing and stuff that I've been doing. As far as playing them goes, that's still a different story.
Right.
But I do enjoy playing, messing around with them. I don't make too many videos as far as playing guitar goes. Um, I can do it if I practice long. I do tabs, so I'll learn different songs and stuff, which I do have videos on my channel of that. Um, are they great? Nah, but they're decent, I guess.
But I mean,
Um,
Eric, that's part of why I love your channel, though. And you and Thad Shoemaker, for me, are my favorite two channels for guys
oh,
that work
thanks.
on guitars. And because, like, I'm not, other than doing basic setups and like changing out a pick guard,
Hmm.
I don't want to touch it because I'm too impatient. But watching
Yeah.
guys like you and Thad do your stuff is really relaxing and super interesting for
Oh,
me.
cool. I'm glad to hear that. I try to make it to where I get like every step by step, even though some of is pretty dull and boring to watch the same thing over and over again, but with a different guitar. Some guys they dig that to where it may be a different guitar, but it's the same thing over again. But yeah, it's a different guitar. They're seeing
Yeah.
something new.
And that's
Um,
what I like about it.
cool, good. I'm glad you like them. But I try to get as much information as I can. So if somebody else is out there wanting to do the same thing, um, what when I got back into the guitar stuff, and like I said, I got that Epiphone Les Paul Special, and then I started buying off eBay. I think one of the first guitars I ended up getting was a new guitar that I ended up getting was I went through Z Sounds and bought an Epiphone Prophecy, the blue one with the EMG, the blue and the black.
Sure.
Um, that thing, there's something goofy with it, and I couldn't get it to set up right. So I brought it over to the music store, and this was before I got into as far as I'm into it now. I brought it over to the music store. They charged me $80 to do a setup on there. And when I got it back to the house, opened up the case and took it out, I had nothing but fret buzz. I mean, really bad fret buzz. And they blamed it on the humidity change from their store to my house. And it's like, well, wait a minute here. I just got it home. It couldn't have changed that much in such little time. So when I started digging into this a little bit more, and this is what actually got me to start working on my own stuff, when I saw that they took the bridge, the Tune-Mac bridge that was on there, and they took a file to each saddle. And no matter what I did as far as raising the action goes to get rid of the fret buzzing or adjust the neck, it was still doing it. So now I had to end up, and I ordered off of the internet an actual Epiphone Tune-Mac bridge and tailpiece. The tailpiece I didn't need, but it came with the bridge, and they were locking. So it had a locking bridge on there.
Sure.
I had to replace it, and then I found out that they just the fret height was iffy on that thing too. They did a fret leveling job on it. I don't know if it really, at that time with the experience that I had, I don't really know if it needed that or not. But that's what got me into, doing it myself instead of taking it over to a music store and having it done.
Right.
And another thing is that's why I make the videos that I make, so you could see it. You could see how easy it is. Attempt it yourself and be comfortable with what you're doing because it's all on step by step. And I sit there and I say, well, don't grind into the frets like you're trying to remove them. You just want to take off a little bit at the top of them just to get them all even, using the marker trick to see where you're at and stuff as well. So you don't grind them down, the frets down to where they're flush. Now you got a fretless instead of, you know, um, same thing with the wiring. And I'll even post up some of my videos as far as the wire diagrams. I use wire diagrams that I find on the internet. They're available. You just type in what you're looking for and then go to the image and on Google, and there's a smorgasbord of everything, and it's free. You know, you don't have to pay for it. So as far as wiring goes, that's another thing that I'll put a picture of what I used as far as a wire diagram, make it a little bit easier for somebody else, including changes that I've made. There was a blue, I believe it was an SX Strat style guitar that I ended up putting mini humbuckers inside of it, and still having the mini humbucker, but being able to split all the coils as well. So I put switches on there. And there was also another thing where it was, instead of just a 5-way switch, there was another switch that a toggle switch that you flipped on it. Now it was 7-way.
Nice.
And I put the information up as far as what I did with that guitar up in the video with that guitar as well. That way somebody else could do it. And I even drew on the wire that made, you know, through the internet, or not internet, but photo editing and stuff. You know, put the extra toggle switches on, put the extra wiring in there, showed exactly how to do it. Just follow the traces from point A to point B, and you should be pretty good.
Now, is there anything you've messed up on colossally that you're like,
Yes.
God, I shouldn't have tried that?
Yes.
What?
Not knowing as far as how oil finishes, like stains and stuff, work with epoxy resin. The Angel guitar was the biggest mistake that I made when I started using the epoxy. I finished the top with a gray oil-based stain, and I let it dry. You know, it's oil, so it takes a little bit while.
Right.
And then I epoxied on top of that, and the whole top turned into a river.
Oh, geez.
It was all wavy, bumpy, and everything else. Luckily, I looked up the information on, you know, other people have done the same thing, and there's other people that have. Luckily, the trick to fix it wasn't to strip it. It was just to level off the waviness and stuff as best as you can, and do another pour on top of it. And now it'll even flow out real nice. And luckily, that worked out great. Number 2 mess up that I did was on the sideboard guitar. When I was cutting the computer board, the motherboard, I was using a grinding wheel to kind of shape a little bit here and there to get to fit inside the opening that I made. And I skimmed a capacitor. So the capacitor was leaking. So when I poured the epoxy inside there, whatever chemical that was inside of the capacitor mixed with the epoxy,
Oh, God.
and the epoxy started smoking. The bottom of the guitar, where, you know, because I leave like a real thin bottom backing on there, was getting really hot. Now, epoxy gets hot when it cures. It gets hot anyways. This was smoking. And I was like, I got right over here on the side of me. The reason why this is there is just in case. I didn't know what was going to happen when it did that. And usually that sits over by the washer and dryer in the other room. But I put it inside here just in case. Yeah, it bubbled up where that capacitor was. There was some bubbling going on. I think it was just a chemical reaction. And it was a good size capacitor. And I had to sit there and just let it do its thing and watch it just in case something would happen. But I never seen something like that get that hot to where you couldn't touch the back of it. Yeah, it's the other one. The other chamber didn't do that.
Jeez.
The other chamber was fine. It heated up and there was no problems. But the one that I skinned the capacitor on there, that was the one that yeah, messed. But I did a half pour, so it was about like yay deep. I only went about half of it, And the inside of it, after it cured, it did like one of these, like it was all like a river with waves in it. Luckily, what epoxy resin is that you don't have to sand or do anything with it. When you do another pour on top of it, it doesn't look like that you added another layer. It makes itself into one.
Sure, it
So
bonds together with itself. Then
yeah, and it worked out pretty good. I mean, it doesn't melt to each other like lacquer does, but it bonds to itself. So it doesn't look like that it's another layer underneath another layer. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to get it finished the way I'm beginning with the epoxy. I've also drilled out tuning pegs wrong size.
oh no.
Yeah. And the way I had to fix that is, I've got a lot of, where are you at? Dowel rod.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing, I plugged a hole with a dowel rod and re-drill it. So I've done that. There's some stuff that are in my videos, but a lot of it I don't put in there. But yeah, I have made mistakes before. I mean, you're human.
So
But I
what's
haven't.
something that you haven't installed on a guitar yet that you've been fascinated by? That you
There is a system that kind of looks like a tremolo system, but it's a tuning system.
is it Evertune?
Yes,
Okay.
I thought about doing putting one of those, installing one of those on a guitar. But I don't like the idea of the routing out the body in order to get that system to fit in there right. That if you make a mistake, you're basically done.
Yeah.
You're not really putting that wood back that you routed out of the body. You could try, but yeah, that's probably about it. I've done locking tuners. I've done made bone nuts from scratch, bought already pre-made and had to fit them, get them, to fit right, adjusting the action height at the first fret. Yeah, I mean, that's, I've done set necks. Those are usually a pain, but I found a way to test out the neck pocket before gluing it, in order to make sure that that neck pocket is straight with the body from the nut to the bridge, using wire,
Okay.
using some real thin, instead of like opening up a pack of strings and doing this, I've got some wire that I've been using that's really thin, and I don't put it under any like major tension, so I don't have to worry about breaking, but it gives me the lines that I'm looking for on each side of the neck to know that the strings are going to be where they're supposed to be on that neck, with like an eighth of an inch, open an eighth of an inch going all the way down evenly to the bridge.
Sure.
If one side is if the neck's got a little bit of a tilt to it, well, you'll see that, and then you'll have to shim or compensate for it. The Kramer was like that. I had to put a small shim inside of the neck pocket on the side of it to tilt the neck over a little bit in order to get the strings to line up properly, going from the neck to the bridge, or from
Yeah, I think you mentioned that, didn't you?
I don't know if I did or if I didn't. I think I
thought
did.
I remembered you mentioning that in there, but maybe not.
But I still think that Floyd Rose 2 that was on that thing didn't come with that guitar. I really think that had a different a Floyd on there. Maybe not I think it maybe had Kramer's Floyd,
Oh, sure.
their own. Because I did have a Striker, Kramer Striker, I had a couple of them, and their Floyd Roses that were on there, it said Kramer on them. But I could be wrong. It could have came with one, but I can't see putting that expensive of a Floyd Rose tremolo system on a body that is made of plywood.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but
No,
if it makes sense, don't do it. Right? It
yeah,
seems to be everybody's
true.
motto nowadays. So,
but that seemed kind of weird to have, something that might have cost more than the guitar itself. on there. And I got it to work. I mean, it's what it came here with. I was going to throw a Florida Special on there because that seemed to fit the cutout that was in the body a hell of a lot better than the one that it came with. But again, I should have paid attention a little bit to, and this is why I got the videos to go back and look at them, to see exactly where things were lining up with. Make it more of a detailed, when I did the video of comparing the Chipsons to an actual Gibson, I took measurements of the Chipsons, where the hardware was, like the bridge and the tailpiece compared to what the actual Gibson locates theirs at. And it's something I should have done with that guitar too. That way I know exactly, okay, the bridge is going right back exactly where it came from. But as far as the neck and the bridge go, I ordered templates for Floyd Roses, and I made a template out of cardboard first and lined that cardboard up with the template that I bought to make sure that they were both the same, and then used the template. The only thing I had a problem with was I would make a starter hole, a pilot hole for the drill bit to follow, before I brought it upstairs on the mill, and then I'd mill the rest of it so I have a nice straight hole. Well, my pilot wasn't straight, so every time I put that damn Floyd Rose back on there, it was like off to one side, or one was perfect, one hole was perfect, the other one was a little off. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I went through a lot of this this rod over here to this wooden dowel rod, kept drilling it out, putting a new one inside there, and until I got it right. And I think I did that like 3 times. So it was like, okay, well, at least the dowel rods are made out of oak.
Right.
So they're going to be nice and hard.
Right.
So yeah,
when you start doing your own guitars, then are you going to have, like, do you think you'll come up with your own shapes, or do you think you'll go more the traditional route, like the single cut or Strat style stuff?
I'm a sucker for a Les Paul body. That's number one. I'm a sucker for
I am too, obviously.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for a flame maple top. I'm a sucker for a quilt top. I love, as far as like wood grain goes, everybody paints their house, all their wood trimming white.
Did I show you that green one up close?
No, I didn't see that one up close.
Quick? That's what Troy Anderson from Anderson Brothers built for me. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. It's
yeah, it's got some flaming in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, I love that. I mean, even if it's a veneer, because a lot of kick guitars come with veneers. If you want something that's got a cap on it, you're going to be spending money for that cap. Because I made a mistake on this Gibson here. Funny thing with this Gibson is that I end up saying that this was a cap. It's actually a veneer after I end up going through more of it. This is a Gibson, even though it says, Gibson on the headstock. This is what you said something about, what guitar you go to play with. In the email, this is kind of it.
Okay.
I did a lot of work to this thing. It's got a roller bridge on it, pneumatic roller bridge. I went with the 6081 EMGs, and
good choice.
The tone on this thing, the way this thing sounds, is unreal. I put real Grover tuners on it, a real bone nut on there, and just gave it a good setup, and that was it. Changed out the electronics, the body, and everything else on this thing was is in. I was doing a thing a while back where I was taking two or three different factories that were making chipsets, and I want to see what the quality of all 3 of them were, how they were being built, the electronics that they were using, how accurate they were put together, what lined up, what didn't line up. And I found one of them that was pretty good as far as the builds go. But electronics, you're getting what you pay for.
Right. I mean, and if somebody was going to buy a Gibson instead of a Gibson, I mean, how do you know which factory it comes from? Is it serial number based or what?
No, No, serial numbers are taken off of other Gibsons. So if you end up like taking that serial number off of that Gibson and putting it in, there's a database online that you could find out, you know, what type of what guitar you have and the year that it was made and shit.
Right.
Um, it'll come up as being a real Gibson.
Okay. So how would you know then if you're buying a Gibson, which factory to get it from? If you want one from the good
You're
factory.
taking a chance.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh yes.
I mean,
Oh
how did
yes.
you figure out which factory each one was from?
Um, the seller. Those were eBay finds. I didn't go through like AliExpress or anything like
Oh,
that.
okay.
My bank won't let me use AliExpress or
Right.
go through AliExpress. So I did the eBay thing, and I bought two guitars from one seller, and I bought two guitars from another seller, and just compared them between finish, between how they were made, any type of issues in the wood itself that you could physically see. And this seller here are so close to an Epiphone, it's unreal. Between the finish, how they finish their guitars and stuff, uh, they use it's not, I don't think it's a lacquer that's on there, because usually you would be able to smell that, especially on something that's new.
Now, are
And
Gibsons made in the same factories that like all the overseas guitars are made in? They just kind of make them on the side and don't really say anything about it.
no, 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 no. You have
Are they
sweatshops.
totally contraband?
They're contraband.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure I clarified that.
I think it was, I don't know if it was Chicago or New York. And now I don't know how they priced this. Um, when they came in, they were all basically counterfeit. They were all Chipsons. I want to say that they priced it as being like 30 some odd $1,000 worth of guitars that all went into the chipper. They all got destroyed.
Okay.
And they all came from China. Not one of them was the real deal. The only thing I don't understand is are they pricing them comparison with the Gibson, not knowing that they're cheaper, a lot cheaper.
I think some
Um,
places were because if you watch, I mean, you watch Mike from CGS.
yes, yes,
He did a video on that exact same thing where there were
yep.
stores in the UK that were selling Chipsons as Gibsons for the full price, I think.
You ever watch
Yeah.
Judge Judy?
Yeah, okay. A long time ago, yeah.
She has one that it's on the internet if you wanted to go and look at it, that a music store or a secondhand music store sold a Chipson to a buyer claiming that it was the real deal, until the buyer had his music store take basically the truss rod cover off of it and finding out that it was a fake. And then other things fell into place too. So the guy was trying to sue the seller to take this thing back because it was a counterfeit. And he wanted everything. So yeah, it was the first time I ever saw a Judge Judy episode like that. But yeah. So they've just been around. And a lot of the pawn shops around here will look to make sure that there is a nut on that truss rod, not an Allen key.
Okay, so that's the big difference that you know is
That's one of them,
the
yes.
Gibsons
Because
have nuts on them and the Chipsons do not. Okay.
you can upgrade the electronics. You can I mean, if somebody had the electronics and tuners and stuff laying around, but yet they had something that mimicked a 69 Gibson Les Paul or a 67, whatever that, and just change it, upgrade the hardware and the electronics on there, then bring it to a pawn shop and try to sell it as the real deal, which is illegal. If they took the serial number off of it and put it into the database, it comes up as being a real Gibson. Without taking it apart to look at things, it's a little hard to tell biggest mistake that they did was using an Allen key truss rod. There's the biggest giveaway right there. And the second giveaway is the low quality hardware. They'll say Grover tuners on them, but they're fake. The caps that are on the side of a Grover don't look right. And the finishing of them isn't as nice and shiny. It's striped up, pitted. Even the lettering around the Grover, the little insignia that says Grover on there, the lettering's raised up. It's not as sharp as what a real Grover would look like. You could just tell that there's something wrong with these. And I mean, for a set of Grovers, I mean, it's like $60 for a set of Grovers, you know, depending on where you buy them from. But if you already have these parts and you're trying to dress up a turd to sell, you know, it ain't costing you nothing.
Right.
But maybe jail time. All the ones that I've had, I've kept 2 of them. And then the Dragon one is a third, but the Dragon one is more of a, I told them what I wanted as far as the build goes, the way the neck profile is, the headstock logo. Even though the finish wasn't all that great, the fret work wasn't all that great, didn't use a bone nut. They weren't real Grover tuners. You know, even the truss rod cover is cut where it says Les Paul Custom. The Les Paul is a wider cut in the writing than it would be on rather standard. Even on the Chipson, this Chipson that I have over here, the blue one, it's the same truss rod cover. The writing on the truss rod cover looks better than the writing on the truss rod cover of the Wanted Dragon on it. But I've ordered a friend of mine, Jeff Lee, Diamond Cut Graphics. He makes a lot of the decals I've been using on the guitars, and I had to make me a bunch of Chipson logos. So I'm getting rid of this one. I don't know if I can do it because it has the inlay all matches with the headstock, but the other one that I have, which I already changed it out, sand off the area where it says Gibson, hit it a couple of times with some black paint, put the new Chipson decal on it, and then I'm going to hit it with some clear after that.
Nice.
You know, get rid of that. Yeah. I mean, like I said, this factory here did everything right, and it worked out perfect. The other one that I have, which is I think it's a Blueberry Burst, but it's got a maple fretboard on it and different inlay than what this one's got. That one is pretty good too. They both came from the same factory. And then I have a gold top that came from another factory. That one is actually halfway decent as well. It was decent enough to upgrade it.
Sure.
And then we had 2 of them. I ended up picking up the Slash, another one that said Gibson on it, which is not. It was the Slash signature. And then I had another one that, oh wow, I can't remember what that one. I think it had like a white burst where it kind of was blue and then it went into a white on the top. They do look nice. I mean, they are flashy, and I think a part of that,
if you don't mind me asking, the chips
you could pick up one from anywhere between $150 to $250 to $350. Like this one here, they went up in price, but I paid like $380 for it.
Okay.
Okay, but all I wanted it for was the bones of it, just the neck and the body. Everything else,
that's worth it just for that badass
inlay
stuff.
Yeah, the inlay work under is fantastic. Even on the neck itself, which I showed in the videos too, Epiphone will use a lot of filler around their inlays on their neck. You could see it. Okay.
I had and you can see it on. For sure. I had a worn purple Les Paul that I used early on the channel that I had to sell to make payroll like this last winter, and that I could definitely tell where they were.
So you know what I'm talking about as far as the filler goes. Yeah, these guys didn't use that much of it at all on that guitar with the dragon inlays on it. And I was really shocked when I ended up, especially when that one piece came out. I was expecting that I was going to have to fix around the edges or something because of the filler came out with it. And if it hit the ground, that filler is going to come right off of that piece that hit the ground.
Right.
And there was nothing I had to fix, just put it right back in place.
Nice.
So that's the one thing I gotta say that they do really nice. And I've watched videos on how they do these inlays, and they're sitting there. They do it the old-fashioned way. It looks like a little what is those coping saws, like a little coping saw, and they're sitting there on the floor and a little table, and they're cutting away, and they're mass producing this stuff like it's nothing to them. But it's all done by hand.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this was all done by hand. I don't know, but I know somebody laid it out because there's some areas on it where the pieces aren't butted up against each other. They may be a little bit off, but that's fine. Not a big deal. Just more characteristic in it.
Sure. Cool. Well, Eric, I don't have anything else for you, man. This has been a fun hangout. Do you have anything else you want people to know about the channel or about your work or any of that?
No. Basically, if like I said, if you're mechanically inclined and you want to learn about working on guitars and stuff, pick up something cheap. Pick up a used guitar for $80 someplace, or a Squire or something, and you take it apart and learn how everything works together. If it doesn't work together, you're not going to have a usable instrument. Learn how that works together. Learn the measurements. Learn action height, pickup height. The measurements between the nut and the neck for scale length, or not the neck, but the nut and the bridge for different scale lengths, and intonation as far as how to tune it up at the 12th fret. Don't be afraid of it, but don't go out and buy a $500 guitar to do this with, because if you do make a mistake, it's easier to not really cry over $80 than $500.
Right. Cool, man. Well, I'm gonna stop recording here. For
All
those
right.
of you watching, thank you as always for joining us. Again, I will post links to where you can find more information about Eric and his work and his channel in the description. So if you see something you like, if you want him to build you a kit guitar, hit him up and he will do that for you. And as always, thank you so much for watching and have fun playing.